Welcome back to the True Kings podcast. I'm your host, LJ Johnson. Today, if you guys remember, I asked several of you to send me certain questions, you know what I'm saying? Because I want to do a Q&A video for you guys. I wanted to find a way to get you guys more interactive, and I figured this is definitely a great first step here. And so, I asked many of you to send me certain questions. As you can see, in case you guys could kind of see my camera and stuff, it's kind of moving a lot. Currently here at the beach, and it is a very windy day here. But that's okay. You know, we're gonna work with it. You know, I'm currently sitting here on the patio of the beach and everything, and we're gonna have fun with this. So without further ado, hope you guys enjoy. So the way I got these questions in order, I got them kind of from the easiest to like the hardest. So this video may get kind of long. I don't know. We're gonna find out based off how these questions are. Some of these questions involve very little explaining, and others involved a lot of explaining. So without further ado, the first question is, what's your favorite fast food meal or go-to place? When I was in high school, my favorite fast food place was Sonic. I don't know if I'd still say that it's my favorite place. Uh, I think now, I think I'm gonna still say Sonic. I think Sonic is still my favorite fast food joint to go to. Some people may disagree with that, you know. But the next question number 2, what habit am I trying to build? Are there really any habits I'm trying to build? I don't really know. I think if there is a habit I'm trying to build, it's just to continue to put forth the best effort I could possibly put into in literally everything. I think one habit I'm trying to build within myself is to definitely go out more. I think that is a habit I'm trying to build within myself because I'm a very introverted person and I don't go out much like how I probably should, but you know, it's definitely something I'm about to start trying to do more. Question 3, would you rather have a high paying job or a low paying job you love? So this one is very much an interesting question. Here's why. So when it comes to a high paying job, right, you could get enough money to go out and do different things that you love, buy different things that you love, but you hate the job. So is it really worth staying, right? Because you hate the job. But a low paying job, right? You love the job, but you may constantly feel tired and you can't really get any time off, and you can't really sit there and you can't really do anything or buy anything you want because it's a low paying job. Here's my thing. My thing is money, it can get you happiness, but it can't get you lifetime happiness, if that makes sense. Other things are going to get you lifetime happiness. So if I have a low paying job I love, that's a step to lifetime happiness versus just having a job that is high paying but constantly being annoyed at. So I think a low paying job that I love, because at some point I got to think about it. It may be low paying, but if I stay at that job long enough and if I show that I love that job, then eventually the job may get back to me more in return. You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. Some of y'all may disagree. I don't know, but that's how it is. I know y'all see the camera moving. The camera is moving a lot right now because it's so windy here. You know, it's apparently supposed to storm later. You know, I feel like a newscaster right now. But question number 4. What is the biggest lesson I've learned in the last year? So, the biggest lesson that I've learned in the last year, you guys heard me talk about it a lot. It's the lesson of forgiveness. The lesson of forgiveness is something that I've learned a lot within the last year, or really a couple years. It's something that God has worked in me a lot. Something that Jesus has worked in me a lot. Because hatred is so easy to have in the world today. It's a very easy thing to have. But being someone who knows what it's like to hate someone for so long for something they did to you or something they didn't do, you know, it consumes you. And you know the saying, they live rent free in your head. That's literally what happens. Is that person or whatever that hurt you could live rent free in your head to the point where you literally are never satisfied with your life. You're constantly consumed with trying to prove them wrong or trying to make it to where they regret their decision or something, and you're not ever happy. You're not. So when you take that step of forgiveness that the Lord says that you should do, when you finally take that step, it leads to a lot of relief being there, a lot of relief in everything that you could ever possibly hope for. And so I'm definitely I definitely would say that is the biggest lesson I've learned, is to have forgiveness. And I will say this, even when you are in a moment where you forgive somebody, right? You can forgive them and still think about the situation and get upset. That doesn't mean you haven't forgiven them. It doesn't mean you're not over the situation. But I mean, because the wound is always going to be there. Wounds heal, but there's always going to be a scar that's there in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, from that situation. And so that's why I definitely say you just have to have patience. And one thing I would definitely say is forgiving is not something that it's a gift. It's a gift that you give to somebody, but it's something that people should not take lightly. If you go and you ask someone to forgive you, you cannot sit there and be like, "Hey, forgive me." Like, you can't force them to forgive you. That's impossible. Asking them to forgive you and then begging them to forgive you over and over again, they're going to feel obligated to. And when you're obligated to forgive somebody, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be satisfied. And so definitely understand that forgiveness is a gift that people can give or not give. And so I think that's the biggest lesson I've definitely learned in the last 2 years. And now I say the lesson I'm learning now from the Lord, from Jesus, that I'm learning in life right now, is to have patience. That is, I think, the lesson I'm learning now. And so, question number 5: what is the best piece of dating advice you have received, or real world advice that you have received that you would give to the younger generation? Always have respect for yourself. That is the best piece of advice, I think, in terms of dating or anything. Because if you can't respect yourself, how can you respect someone else? If you can't respect yourself, how can you respect the people that the Lord has put around you or that you've come across? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's truly what I believe in that situation. And respecting yourself, it can come easy or it can come hard to others. When you go through many different situations where you see that you've messed up or others have messed up, it's hard to have that respect for yourself, because there will be many times in life where people are going to make you feel worthless. There are going to be many times in life where you're going to feel worthless based off your own thoughts. And it's having respect for yourself is a difficult thing. But then when it comes to me personally, I think about how would I look in the future if I didn't have respect for myself? I'm going to give you a prime example of when you should really have respect for yourself. Basically, let's say if you're in a relationship and someone cheats on you or decides to break up with you, and then they come back after they've been with this other person or these other people. They come back, right? Now, if it's a situation of, hey, I like you, right? Like, maybe you've been talking to them or tried to have a few conversations with someone, and then you finally ask them out, or you see them for the first time and you go and ask them out, and they're like, "Oh, I have a girlfriend or a boyfriend," or whatever, right? That's different. But if you find out they were lying about it, if they're being truthful about it, it's fine. That door can always be open, and it doesn't mean you don't have respect. You don't have respect for yourself. But if you find out that they were lying to you about having a significant other, or they're talking to somebody, or if you find out that they were in a situation, and they didn't tell you, things of that nature, at that point, I would sit there and say, do you have respect for yourself if you're allowing that person to come back after they've lied to you, after they left you, after they cheat on you? In my opinion, you don't, because, and like I said, like, some people may argue, oh yeah, you do, but it's like, how do you have respect for yourself if you're gonna sit there and give them the potential to come back and do the same thing over and over again? It doesn't make any sense to me, but some of y'all may, you know. But that's just me personally. So always have respect for yourself, and that's the advice I would give to the younger generation. Um, Question number 6 is I think my favorite question on here. Uh, have you ever lost your faith in Jesus, and how did you get it back? This could mean him or religion. So the thing I would say about this question is, with this question, the one thing I would say is, being a Christian is something that many people get messed up. And if you watch my last little clip video, I talked about how being a Christian is difficult. I would say with this question, you have to understand that a relationship or having faith in Jesus is not about religion, it's about relationship. And so you'll say this, you're supposed to have your faith in Jesus, right? But some people have their faith in their relationships. If you don't have your faith in your relationship, how is it gonna succeed? If you don't have your faith in Jesus, how can you succeed in anything? You know what I'm saying? And I would say the last time, I would say, there was a point in time where I didn't have faith in Jesus, but it was really before I knew him, before I had my personal relationship with him. So I'm gonna go based off of when I did have my relationship with him. Uh, I would say the most recent time, and ever since I gained my relationship with Jesus, I never lost faith. There have been times where it's been tested, and it felt like I was gonna lose it, but I never did lose it. But the most recent time I lost, or no, I almost lost my faith in Jesus, or it was tested, it was actually recently. Um, Not really going to go over the situation here, but basically, I kind of talked about it in my last little clip video as well, where I said, in the relationship I had with Jesus, it's been rough. It's had great times, I had bad times. But I said that there was something I wanted so bad, and I constantly prayed for it to happen, and it still didn't happen. I finally approached what I wanted with confidence in everything, and the Lord still didn't allow it to happen after I prayed so much. And I kept sitting there going, how much do I have to do, Lord, for you to sit there and finally allow me to have what I want? And when I say I was so angry at the Lord in this moment, I was so angry to the point where I look back now and I go, oh man, I was overreacting. But at that point in time, it felt like I was losing it. I was losing it because I was so upset. And after all that, I still had my faith in him that I was going to succeed and do what I wanted to do. And there are so many doors that he is opening up for me, and that's why I'd sit there and I say, that's probably the closest time. And how did I get back to him? It just took like a few days. It took a few days for me to look at the situation and think about it more and go like, okay, the Lord, he's got more doors open for me. It took a lot of, I did a lot of praying and everything. I read some of the Bible, all that, and that's really what it took. But if you were ever trying to find your faith in God, I will tell you, when I didn't have faith in him and how I built my relationship with him, I've talked about it numerous times. I just went through heartbreak. That's what it was. It took my heart getting broken for me to come to him. And so that's why I sit there and I say, like, building a relationship with him can vary, but that's what I'd say. And like I said, don't look at Christianity as a religion. Look at it more as a relationship with him. That's the best thing I could personally say if you're trying to build that with him. Question 7: would you describe yourself as a religious person or a spiritual person? Uh, this question is seemingly, I would kind of say, all over the place, in my opinion. Now, what I personally mean by that is, so how can I best describe this? So I think when I first started my relationship with Jesus, for the course of those first several months, or like even so, like so I'm gonna give you a timeline. My relationship with Jesus started in July of 2023. July 2023. It wasn't strong, but it was starting. I really started taking praying seriously. I started reading the Bible, some things of that nature. It wasn't until 2024 is when I was fully in it. I would say for probably like the first from I would say November of 2023 to I'd probably say April or May of 2024. I would say I would have described myself as a religious person. And the reason is because the thing about people who I notice who are Christians but they're religious is they kind of don't give leeway to certain things. What do I mean when I say don't really give leeway to certain things? I mean, they'll hold a lot of people to a certain standard that they don't realize that certain people just don't know how to meet. And so there are a lot of times where people uh, they go into these situations and they'll come out of it a certain way. And you have these many Christians who they go and they judge these people in a way that these people probably shouldn't be judged. And that's kind of how I was at first in my relationship with Jesus. And it didn't help that a lot of Christian curators and a lot of people I come across that were Christians were also the same way, but they did not know how to have leeway on certain things. You know, everyone interprets the Bible differently. So it makes sense why they're like that, but that's how I would have explained myself was before I was a religious person, but now I would definitely say, but also I will also say this before I get to the spiritual part. Another reason I would have considered myself religious as well is because I was also hurt at the same time. I was still getting over my past discretions of being hurt and being in pain and all that. So now I would probably say I'm more spiritual than anything because I understand more that it's more about relationship than religion. But I'm still learning the spiritual aspects of having that relationship with Christ. So I would say I'm more of a relationship kind of guy with Christ. I wouldn't even really say spiritual. I'd say I'm more of a relationship kind of guy versus a religious person or spiritual person. What do you feel your purpose, or what do you feel your purpose is in life? That's something I'm still trying to figure out. Um, I would say I'm living this year in ignorance. I'm living this year in ignorance because I've come to learn that when I constantly am like, oh, I want to do this in my life, I want to do this in my life, I want to do this in my life, I kind of start rushing and I don't ever feel satisfied. I don't feel, you know what I'm saying? And so when I say I'm living in ignorance, it means I'm learning, like how I said earlier, I'm learning patience. I'm learning to really take a step back and let God drive me. You know what I'm saying? Let God have control over everything that's going on. It's not easy doing that. It's actually more difficult than what y'all may think it is. But just having that ability to just live in ignorance. A friend of mine once said, "Ignorance is bliss." And when he said this, I didn't agree. But now I have an agreement to an extent because when you never know what's going to happen, because when you start planning for things, there are things you can plan for, but then you get so disappointed when things don't go your way. And so I definitely say I don't. I'm learning what my purpose is in life, and every day I learn more and more about what it is. But as right now, it's just about living life in ignorance to try and understand things. What is question 9? What is a rule that you have for yourself that you would encourage others to follow, but you would not get mad if they don't follow it? This kind of goes back to question number. Let's see, what number was it? It was number 5, which was the dating question that I get to the youth. So one thing I learned from my last relationship, and my last relationship, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, was 3 years ago. My last relationship was 3 years ago, and the one thing that I have personally learned from seeing kind of how my ex girlfriend was moving after our breakup and everything is wait at least 8 months before you get into another relationship. I call it the 8 month rule. Many people won't follow this. I follow this. It's just personally to me. I would encourage people to follow this, but I wouldn't be mad if they didn't. So, what the 8 month rule is, it is when whether you're the one initiating a breakup or you're the one being broken up with, what you do is you take 8 months to focus on yourself, to build yourself up, to do everything that you could possibly do in order to so you can go on and be ready for the next person, right? And you don't have to go ahead and start trying to move on at the 8 month mark, but the 8 month mark gives you that ability to heal, and it also gives enough time for the person that you were with the time to heal, even if they're out here already doing their thing. You know what I'm saying? Because it just allows you a lot of time, it allows him a lot of time. And it's more so, when I say it gives the other person time to heal, it's more so for if you broke up with them. You know what I'm saying? If you broke up with them, you have to understand, if they were to sit there and find out that you had already moved on to another relationship, whether it's just a few weeks later or a few months later, versus it being or you know almost a year later, because 6 months is half of a year. You know what I'm saying? Um, but if they find out you moved on, because I know, I'm be honest with y'all, like, I found out my ex had moved on to another relationship 5 months after our breakup, and to a lot of people that's a long time, but to me, this is 3 years ago. She was my first love at the time and everything, and that hurt. Like, it literally felt like the ultimate betrayal, because I kept thinking about her. I always wanted her to come back, and I was so in love with her and everything, and I didn't want to move on. And then just to see that she had moved on to someone else after 5 months, it was a very big betrayal at the time for me, and it made me learn, like, I don't ever want anyone else. Like, even if I'm initiating a breakup, I wouldn't even want my ex to feel this pain, because I already know she's going to probably be, if she doesn't want to end the relationship, but I do, I already know she's going to be hurting really bad. You know what I'm saying? Just as much as I was when I went through that situation. That's why I initiated the 8 month rule. So it gives me time to heal. It gives me time to improve my life. But also, it gives her time to heal and time for her to improve her life. So that way, when we both are finally truly able to, or ready to move on, we can both move on without having that sense of hatred or heart, or that feeling of being so brokenhearted in our hearts. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely encourage the 8 month rule, and I want to say this right here too, because it goes along with it. If you're the one initiating a breakup, understand this: like, if you're initiating a breakup because you got cheated on, then obviously it's okay. But if you initiated a breakup, but your boyfriend or girlfriend did nothing wrong in the relationship, they were great, they were all this, you do not have the right to get mad if you find out that they are already out here being with somebody else or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Soon after y'all break up, because you are the one who wanted to end the relationship. Therefore, because I know there are a lot of people out there that get mad. I've met people who have ended relationships and they get super mad when they find out that, hey, their ex has moved on already. But it's like, why are you mad? You broke up with them. They didn't break up with you. You broke up with them. You know. And I understand. Have to understand that people heal differently. People do things differently. But I've also come to learn that all because you sit there and move on super fast doesn't mean you're healing. It just means you're blocking the pain. Simple. But anyway, those are the 9 questions I wanted to go through. There were more, but I don't have them written down. I'll probably end up doing a part 2 Q&A. But those are the questions I wanted to go over today. But anyway, I'm about to go enjoy my time at the beach, y'all. So I hope y'all have a great day. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you go follow a True Kings podcast. We're now on Spotify, so go follow it on Spotify. Make sure you follow on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Y'all stay blessed. Peace.